You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. I'm Bill McIntyre here with Jon Gallo, bringing you news stories about Long Island and about Long Islanders. Today, we'd like to welcome to the show Town of Hempstead Executive Don Clavin and the Town Clerk from the Town of Hempstead, Kate Murray.
Hi.
And good morning, folks.
Bill,
Good
John.
morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. We're delighted to be with you as always.
Thank you guys for being here.
We
appreciate
definitely.
your time, and we know you guys are hard at work as always. A lot of challenges on your plate, and we appreciate your time to kind of discuss with the residents on what you guys are doing to help us at this still challenging moment as we kind of transition through the vaccine and try to move us away from this longstanding nightmare that we've discussed in the past. But all that said, we wanted to discuss maybe some of the things closer to home first, maybe a little start on a rosier note. We saw that both of you guys were actually on the campus, I believe, about 2 days ago over at the, what would it be called? The Hempstead, I think, Plains area, like an environmental site. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys were doing there and how the town of Hempstead was involved directly?
You know, it kind of goes back. It's the unique part about how, working with Kate. So many years ago, Kate was so involved in a lot of the initiatives, and one of them was at the groundbreaking of the Hempstead Plains, where right there, right next to the campus, is a beautiful, basically nature walk with a standalone building that the residents can go to. They can, really see some beautiful wildlife and really some growth that you don't typically see in some of these, more commercial areas. We went down for the nice tour because we want to publicize it. We want people to utilize it. And we've seen such an uptick in the use of our outdoor facilities, from the Levy Preserve to the nature study walk down at the beach. And this is just another opportunity for people to go outside. That's a real kind of hidden gem. Kate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great to get back to, of course, it's the last remaining sections of the historic Hempstead Plains. And, of course, we were greeted by Professor Betsy Galata, who was the real guiding force. Yep. She was the heart and soul of this Hempstead Plains group, and Professor Nina Shaw as well, who is a professor over at Nassau Community College as well. And they're super, super dedicated, along with their board of trustees, to the Hempstead Plains. And, of course, what they were bragging about, as they should, was the education center that we walked around. It's a great interactive kind of center that can be a real learning and living classroom for all sorts of and all levels of students.
Yeah, it's amazing when you say it's right there next to the college, and really, with people's focus on so many things. One of them is definitely the environmental side. It's a great resource that the faculty, the students can use, and we talked about a couple of initiatives of getting people a little more familiar with it, because once you get one step in the facility, you're like, I didn't know it was here, and I didn't realize the walk was so beautiful, and you could do so much. So we're going to be working with the college and the team down there, publicizing it and getting a little more well-deserted exposure for a great trek.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's great. That's really cool. What's funny is I think of, you keep repeating what, I don't know, John, I was at the radio station for quite a while before I realized that WHPC stands for West Hempstead Plains College.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot of history there that people overlook. And I think, like you said, that site is one piece of it. I know I love to take that walk. And now there's going to be the big new NCPD training facility over there, too, right off of that piece of land. But it's amazing. You don't even realize there's a little bit of like a stream in between, I guess, the Meadowbrook and like where the mall is, and right there by the Plains Center. And yeah, like you said, you really feel like you're not, right next to the Meadowbrook when you're over there.
John, it's funny you say that. I mean, the Meadowbrook, and that runs all the way down to the Levy Preserve.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're all interconnected. It's amazing, but like it's amazing to think that you drive by that area and you just kind of take it for granted, and you don't realize it's beautiful. It's right there. You're leaving work, stop there. You want to go out with the kids, bring them over there. You know what? Maybe you need a break from your classes. Go over there, take a walk. And that's why I said we were happy to go, and we're looking forward to, getting a little more notoriety for a real gem located next to the college.
Yeah, sounds good to us. We definitely always like more plugs of the college, so good to see that.
Next we're going to make you guys do a live radio feed one day over there.
Yeah, we can do play-by-play on the animals crossing the plains or something like that.
We'll sit in the duck blind and broadcast.
There you go. On a nice warmer day, hopefully. But no, that's good to hear, to see what's going on, like I said, right here close to home. We know our campus has been talked about, and we spoke about with County Executive Curran last week about the fact that the school is being used as a vaccine distribution site. And we all know, as we discussed with her, that there have been a number of setbacks. There have been some, relatively modest successes, and we're glad to see people are getting the vaccine in arms. But it's clearly been a problematic rollout. There's clearly been a lot of, let's say, kind of, problematic links in the chain. But hopefully things are going to turn around going forward. Can you give us your take again about that site and maybe some of the other sites that are doing similar things within the town of Hempstead, within cooperation with the county and state?
It's funny. We talked and we remind people all the time that on January 1st, the pandemic didn't end. It continues, and then the same problems. The food insecurity continues.
Definitely.
And a demand still is required for testing. So it's great. We talk about the vaccinations and getting them, but until we get to a level that you can really get them into a sizable amount of arms, people still need to take, those cautions and wear the mask and use the hand sanitizer. We actually have continued with the CARES funding. We're doing the continuing funding with Long Island Harvest and Island Cares for food insecurity. They're two wonderful groups, and we were happy to get the extension and continue to use the funds there. We've also continued to do testing with Northwell and particularly South Nassau. We helped fund a drive-up testing facility at South Nassau. And we started that really in the beginning of December, knowing after Thanksgiving we were going to see this spike. And it was amazing the demand that there was for testing throughout December and now in January. So we're keeping that. And I'll tell you, and next week we're going to be having a big announcement on a program for both testing and maybe, vaccination. But the key is, when the vaccinations really start flowing, you have to get it in every area, every community, and particularly with a focus on those hardest hit areas. This pandemic's hit, that's very straightforward. Some communities are harder than others, and we have to get the means. Not everybody can drive to the college, and not everybody can drive down to the beach, and we have to get creative. And I think, in the next week, we're going to have an announcement. We're putting the final touches on it. That's going to help address that. But I'll tell you, the functioning, the flip side is, we've been busy here in the town, during this entire pandemic. We've never shut the doors. And one person has been extremely busy and has done amazing things to the point, if you came over here, you'd see Kate has literally set up the entire clerk's office outside and sees astronomical numbers, and residents are happy. Kate, you got to tell them.
Well, first, before I touch on some of the interesting things, and it's great to have wonderful staff. You all know that. You deal with your colleagues, and if your colleagues are great and are imaginative and, have a lot of motivation to help the public or to, improve the radio station, that just all works beautifully. And I have that. But I have to say, just before we go on to that, I have to thank Don and the town board. It's been unprecedented. We know this, and I'm not stating anything that's new, but I do think it bears repeating. What Don has done, his leadership in this past year, there was no template for how to run a government, how to help your residents in a pandemic, the likes of which we have not seen in over 100 years. And I have to say that with Don's leadership and with a very cooperative town board, and they all work as a team, which is great. It's been phenomenal to see the resources with the CARES funding that they have, put forth throughout every community in the town of Hempstead. And it really, I think it really stands out as a model for other governments. I think it's been a tremendous effort. And quite frankly, I know someone who, the South Nassau, and this might seem negative, but it's not. It shows how many people are being helped. But it's really hard to get through to the South Nassau, the testing site that Don and the town board members funded through the CARES Act.
Okay.
What that means is, and while that sounds like a criticism, I don't mean it that way at all. What it means is that literally thousands of Town of Hempstead residents are using it well and getting tested, getting the diagnoses that they need to keep themselves safe and to keep their families and the community safe as well. So, all you have to do is dial our programs and you know that they are being very well used. So, I just think great kudos on, it's those kinds of programs that are going to get us over the finishing line. So I have to say kudos to them before we talk about the town clerk stuff. It's interesting. Early on and again, this whole pandemic has made people more imaginative. You're forced to think outside the box, right? You have it at the radio station, at the college. Everybody had to sort of throw out plans as normal and plans as usual.
Oh, yeah. Be flexible and adapt, of course.
Exactly, John. And to think about, how do we still deliver the services? That's what Don's been doing for 365 days already.
I feel like 365 years.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
You sound like my family having to spend time with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And you also know in that vein, Kate, that I think that the one of the groups that we really should applaud are the school kids, because I think everyone's first assumption when everybody said we got to get them back into school, we got to get them that they were all going to be infected and the schools would be closed. And they've done a great job. I think we should have a parade for the kids.
That's a good idea, Bill.
I mean, it just seems to me that it's been totally overlooked. Our schools are where we find out where the pockets of, virus may be affecting. But as far as overall, they're wearing masks, they're staying away from each other. That's got to be really hard to every day, I mean, for us adults, we can suck it up and say, hey, this is what we got to do. But to get a whole classroom, well, you would think, right, to get a whole classroom full of young children to actually, do this and it's succeeding, I think they really deserve a hand.
It's funny you say that. I have three little ones, and my oldest is 13. Then my second is 10, and my little guy, my daughter's, and then my son is just turned 8. And my oldest is doing a hybrid, which is tough. You're in an age you're trying to make friends. The other ones, I mean, it's amazing. They know, get your shoes on, get your jacket on, get your mask on. Let's go to the bus stop. We have to show them the thumbs up.
Exactly.
And speaking as I know how I was as a boy, I am sure this is very difficult for my son because it's difficult enough for me to sit still and to they do. All these kids need to really be recognized. They've done it, and they're very young. And this has been in some ways traumatic, but you know what? They've adapted well, and we're lucky for that. We really are.
Most and I know we've talked to a couple of reporters, and we've seen these numbers come out of schools, and it's great to see that the majority of it's coming from community spread. It's not really being an issue. If it is in the school, it gets dealt with pretty quickly, and a lot of times it's not from the students themselves. It's actually from the adults, from the faculty. Maybe because at times it's easier, especially for young kids, to kind of get into that routine, whether it's, nap time or whether it's, lunchtime or recess time, it's very regimented, and some of the young ones follow it maybe better than some of their even adult kind of teachers or even the college students, as we see sometimes. So, it's good to see. And I think, like you said, that can't be lost. And to that point, I know something that you and I know I believe you feel the same way, Kate, is regarding extracurricular activities, school sports, and the kind of process to resume some of that type of behavior. I think it was Assemblyman Ed Ra out there, and I think Rockville Center. I know he was pushing something in the Assembly and some other legislation, and it's been discussed even, I know County Executive Curran seems to be supporting it as well. So you want to talk about a little bit more about how you guys feel about that and what you see kind of the prospects of that in the new kind of school semester, as it were?
Well, it is true. And John, just what you were saying, and, I have, as Don does, we all have lots of parents on our staffs. And so I've been living sort of vicariously through the parents on my staff to see what hoops they've had to be jumping through, what their kids have been doing. To your point about kids being flexible, they're tremendous. But it's amazing what our poor parents have had to go through too with regard to schools. But It's interesting. My own assistant yesterday, she took an hour off her lunchtime to do what? To go to her children's outdoor track relay. It was so very, very socially distanced and everything. One parent per kid could actually go to the place where the track meet was having. But what she was saying about her kids, they were so incredibly excited to be back on track or whatever it is, whatever athletic field it is, and super, super excited. And I won't tell any names, but her son came in last, in the track relay, and he came bounding off the track to his mother and said, "Mom, I improved my time." Forget about the fact that he came in last. He was so excited to be on the field and that he had improved his personal time. That's all that mattered to him. He's super excited to be there. And to that point, Don actually wrote a letter in support of the Governor Cuomo loosening up the rules, the restrictions about athletics. And I could just say from a very anecdotal point of view, from the parents on my staff, when their kids actually get to do some activity, combined activity, it's sociability, it's teamwork, it's all of the above, running around, getting the energy out. And it's tremendously important for these kids. And Don, you might want to talk about your letter.
Listen, I will tell you right now, we did. We the whole board, and Kate and our receiver at taxes, Gene Driscoll, we all sent it's a second letter to the governor asking him to loosen it because, I see it very firsthand. Kate talked about the track meet. My daughter, 13-year-old, had one the other day. We weren't allowed to go, but they'd set it up for the safety. My daughter could have been happy to run outside in 32 degrees, weather, and her biggest and look, fatherly proud here. She came in. She said, "Dad, had the best day ever," and I came in first, and I beat a boy a grade above me, so it made it even better.
You go.
But then,
girl power.
But then, also, even this trickles not only just to the kids, but it's also the businesses. There are many facilities that run programs for kids, and Wednesday is my day. Why do I say that? There's a facility that runs camps that I drop my kids off at 5. Another one at 6, another one at 7, then I pick up at 8, and I pick up at 9. And you go in, the kids have to be separated. They get checked in. They get temperatures. They have a limited number. They wear masks. They can train. They do a phenomenal job. And these kids are so excited to do it. And that's why it's so important. And by the way, it gives them a chance to see their friend, but doing it safe.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. Obviously doing it safe and knowing, especially for the students who aren't able to do in-person learning, to have, especially if it's an outdoor activity, to have that socialization and to have even the physical, exercise. Obviously it does a lot to reduce stress and to help.
Listen, I want to drive by Nassau Community College and see the lacrosse teams out there. I mean, there is something. There's always some sites over there that you say, "Oh, it's great." I mean, that people want to participate. They want to do things. Yes, they want to do their studies. But there's also that social and health aspect, and
community.
We can do it and be safe.
Okay, fair enough. And to that point, I just want to give you a chance to plug. I know this isn't in person. I believe it's virtual, but I think the town and the town board are partnering with the Long Island Nets. I know who we cover some of their games and stuff like that. With I think a basketball clinic, if I'm not mistaken, right? A free virtual basketball clinic. Is that happening?
Absolutely. The Nets are a great resource. The young men on the court and the entire team of men and women who support the Nets, are over at the Coliseum, and it's been a difficult time. They can't play. So we talked to them. We came up with this idea of doing virtual camps, and they embraced it, and they loved it. And we're going to start the first one. I think it's on January 30th. I think it's at like 1:00 in the afternoon. and we're going to expand it because you know what? Again, if a kid can't go into a court, then let the parent put him outside. They can watch the training.
Yeah,
they can do it outside. It gets the kid outside. And I said, and the Nets are like I said, they're great. They're just a great group that love their sport, that love their communities, and they want to be involved. And I'm happy because we embrace them because you know what, they're part of Hempstead Town, and we're the history of Long Island and Dr. J and all those good situations. And it's interesting. I know everyone's talking about the Nets and their moves over in Brooklyn, but people can't forget that the Nets still have their affiliate over here out on Long Island, and they're still doing what they can. Obviously, and it's good to see what they're doing in the community as well. So I imagine people can find out more if they're interested in that for their kids at the town board's website and on social media, correct? Absolutely. You go to the town webpage, or if you're on Facebook or Twitter, go there. Or you dial in. We'll be happy. We'll give you the details, and we also encourage residents, if they have an idea that you know what, you send it to us, and if we can incorporate it and utilize it, we will. Like I said, everybody can have ideas, but if we don't share them and tell people, we can't utilize it or do it. So they shouldn't be shy.
Most definitely. My background is constituent services, and it's always great to hear people call in, just everyday citizens, talking about their ideas on how they think government can serve them better and take it into account, in aggregate. So I definitely hear you on that. Go ahead, Bill.
And just a reminder for our listening audience: you're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. And Jon Gallo and I are here with Town of Hempstead Supervisor Don Clavin and Town Clerk of the Town of Hempstead, Kate Murray. That's just business. Just how to do business.
Oh, yeah. Always the housekeeping.
Gotta pay the bills.
Oh, yeah. Bill, so I don't know, before we wanted to broach out the conversation maybe larger to some of the other issues, we know there's some news, in terms of the job reports that just came out yesterday in terms of NYFA agreeing to have, again, the decision made rather on restructuring the county's debt and some other issues that we know that you care about, including taxes. Maybe just wanted to finish up on close to home in terms of the Coliseum. We know that both of you have been involved throughout the years in terms of the development there and plans and seeing how different things have changed over time. And I think I saw that you had an article, I believe, with Randy Marshall from Newsday, if I'm not mistaken, recently. Don, and you were talking a little bit about, what your thoughts are. I know we spoke about it in the past with you, but can you just talk to us about where you think it stands right now, the Coliseum, and what the prospects are going forward? We know that they're going to be playing, it looks like, hockey, even if there are no fans in it as of now, the Islanders. But what are your thoughts, I guess, again, going forward into this new year on still having maybe not really a long-term plan there yet?
Yeah, you know what? I will tell you, and everyone should know the county executive and I and the developer. We communicate every few weeks because we realize the importance of this project. We want success there. The pandemic. It's probably going to be realistic. Change some of the possible programs or what they want to build there. Probably predating the pandemic, they were looking at some type of units, and maybe now they're looking at it that do people want to now work from home? Do they? They're going to get creative. Like I said, the developers are. He's a successful developer because he's a very intelligent man. But the residents should know that the county, the town, the county executive and I talk about it. We speak with the developer, and we are all going to work together to make this successful. And I will give us here in the town a little bit of a pounding of our chest because you brought it up before. I do want to let the residents know if you haven't heard, we just got a bond upgrade here in the town of Hempstead. Yep. We're AA. We held those line on taxes, and we're in under the team concept here of the town board members, myself, Kate. We were acknowledged by Moody's that financially the town's in great shape, and that bodes well for the residents in their taxes because we held the line. But on projects we can do because now we're going to save so much money on as we are doing our roads, as we look at investments and other things, and that's something that the residents, we all did it together. Nobody does it alone, but they should be proud of the town because we're in great shape.
Of course, that was good to hear. We know a lot of townships and municipalities are not in the same shape and are moving the wrong way when it comes to their ratings, due to obviously the hardship that's being experienced. So it was good news, and that is something that I'm sure, like you said, it is worth repeating because it does have an impact, of course, down to the average resident. So, okay, I guess, and I don't know if Bill, you had any more specifically about the Coliseum where you wanted to move towards that, and I know also NIFA and some of the other kind of news financially that's going on, or what do you think, Bill?
Yeah, you could pick it. Everything is, I think that all of the municipalities and towns, Long Island, everywhere in the country, are going to really we're going to start seeing more of the effect of the financial crunch. I think of the entertainment industry because that's what I'm familiar with as far as out here. And they talk about nationwide, they had a loss of some $30 billion just because of the restaurants, the local musicians that can't go to those places anymore. I would really like to see, and for Nassau County too, is the town or somebody get in some kind of program where we could actually give the arts a boost. Whether it's a facility where people could go and perform and have cameras on them so that people at home could enjoy a performance, and have something like that constantly going to maybe put some money back in that part of the population. Because when it's all said and done and things come back to life, I don't know that there's going to be that much left.
Bill, I think you're hitting on something really important that, as we make the turn, hopefully on this with the vaccinating, though the industry of entertainment, people are saying that the shows in the city won't even start until the end of the year, maybe September. They're struggling, and as a result of your comment, I told you it's all about people giving good ideas. My brain's already I'm turning around and I'm saying,
Great.
Well, they used to do Shakespeare in the Park. You know what? Yeah. What are we going to do in the town? And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to follow up, and I'm dragging you into this because it's a great idea to create a mechanism that people, even if we still have to socially distance, we could utilize the town facilities maybe for outdoor concerts more, or for shows, or for you know what? There are so many opportunities with your comment, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to take credit for the great idea you came up with. Okay,
no problem.
That's a good elected official there.
Yeah. But there are a couple. Actually, there are a couple of places, and one in particular that I know of in Bethpage. It's a small bar, and they're trying to stay alive. One of the things they did is the bands would go inside, and they were projecting that performance on the back wall in the parking lot.
Fabulous.
They also had an FM.
Great idea. That's another great idea. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, and they had an FM. They had an FM transmitter so that if you didn't even want to get out of your car, you didn't have to. You could turn on 88.1, one of those stations down at the far end, and you're listening to the music and looking at the band on the wall.
Bill, I'll have you know, it's great. It is. Kate and I actually had come up with this idea. We're probably going to announce next week. I guess I'm kind of giving you guys the inside scoop. We're going to do drive-ins during President's Week at the beach, and so kids they can't do anything. So we're going to do afternoon matinees that you drive in. You can listen to it in the car.
Nice.
But I also took into account that I'm going to make them do Saturdays in particular, a 4:00 movie for kids, and then date night 7:00, so the parents can go home, drop off their kids, go back, and get away from everybody.
There you go.
That's great.
But I'm saying, but your idea, Bill, is something that we can expand on. I really do like the idea, and Kate, that's what I said. We like doing that. Kate's always been very, very creative with the stuff too.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah, Don and the Parks Department did a phenomenal job. They didn't miss a beat last summer.
Exactly. Yeah, I know you guys. We're involved during the summer with a lot of different events. Yep.
Yeah. And it's a win-win because so much of the talent that's out there would definitely get on the bandwagon. They want to have a place to be able to express what they do. I think it'd be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. And now a lot of times too, that with digital media being where it is, that folks, especially if, they maybe don't have all the technology, if they can go to a venue that already has it there and isn't being used, kind of like a studio basically, and they can be broadcast, through different social media platforms and other things like that, along to whoever, wants to watch it outside at a safe kind of, distance or whatever. Like I said, like we said in the beginning, it's about that adapting and that flexibility. And, we know.
Guys, it's a great idea. And like I said, I'll follow up with you guys because really it's a great initiative to do.
Yeah, no, we know plenty of musicians, I'm sure, feel, similar. And I know, Bill, you got a lot of contacts from both your bandmates and your buddies from all the different venues out here on Long Island and being on tour and stuff. So, like I said,
and it's heartbreaking too. It's heartbreaking to see, and I'm just concerned that a lot of them are either giving up or getting out of the business. Some of them, the worst thing you want to see is a guy that sells his tools to survive.
Yeah.
And that's what starts to happen, and then we just lost that act. And we just lost this talent. And I try to make a way that they'll survive through this, and that when it does come back full blown, there'll be somebody there to entertain us.
Of course. No, it's more than just a job. It's the art, it's the culture. It's, like you said, the things that keep us in our communities out here on Long Island that we appreciate, going to those venues. And I think to that point, I know a lot of discussion has been framed too about the recovery in terms of federal assistance. And we saw again both in the first stimulus package and in the second kind of go around in terms of a relief package as the previous administration was, finalizing that as the year ended. And also now the fact that Senator Schumer from New York will now be the majority leader. I believe I heard him talking a little bit about some kind of recovery program specifically for venues, music and other types of arts. Can you talk a little bit more about what you think maybe either that piece of legislation or just the general prospects are with him being in the leadership to maybe getting some more aid towards New York for these kind of desperately needed industries?
And really, listen, I hate to use this terminology. He's been a rock star, for us in the town of Hempstead. I mean, he was able to secure all that CARES funding, and we were able to do, so many great things with it. And I'm excited that he's the majority leader, frankly, because you know what? He's a hardworking individual. He looks at everybody across the board, and his staff on Long Island. They're wonderful. We communicate almost every other day. So I think he's really got, the pulse of what's needed in this area. Let it be for the entertainment industry that definitely needs relief, and also for municipalities and for school districts that, people don't understand, when the expenses that had to be made, I talked to these school districts, we recently gave, I think it was about, $6 or $5.5 million. Maybe it's about, I'd say it was $5.5 million to the school districts in the town to help their costs for for PPE, for putting up those dividers. The senator gets that. He understands it. And the residents, I'll tell you this right now, the last thing they want to hear is property tax. They can't handle it. They cannot handle this. People, their jobs have been lost. People who've kept their jobs are working at a reduced salary, and the answer can't be let's raise taxes. Shouldn't be in the Congress, and that's why Senator Schumer is so vital. He understands that, he wants to help, and he is truly a great partner for the town residents.
Yeah, go ahead.
And as a New Yorker, of course, Senator Schumer, you're talking about the performing arts, the entertainment industry. He's a resident of Brooklyn. He knows about the Great White Way. He knows about Broadway. He knows about all of the performing. And New York City is the Mecca. Let's face it. With all due respect to other geographical areas of the country, New York is it, right? All right, I'm showing my bias, of course. But Senator Schumer is going to get it because he lives it. He lives in the city that provides it, and so there's that great hope that going forward, as more pandemic relief is created, is authorized by Congress, that, he is savvy enough and knows the nuances enough to direct those dollars to those particular areas that have been so hard hit. Everybody's been hard hit, but you think of small businesses, the individual performer, the individual entrepreneur. I can't imagine who's been hit worse.
But, it's funny, you know, to kind of go back to what, Bill, what you brought up with John, and just the other day I read the story that the Malvern Theater is shutting down,
right?
Because they're temporarily closing again. Because you can't pay your bills, you can't fund it, you can't, and that's heartbreaking. That's like a centerpiece in Malvern, but that's just Malvern. Now duplicate that, in every Westbury, go to Huntington. It's just not a town; it's all over, and that's why I said, Senator Schumer, he's an advocate, he gets it, and Kate's right. He's from New York, so you know what, we're very, very hopeful.
Okay. No, I think that goes a long way. And like you said, it's a good sign to show that, regardless of party affiliation, that we all want what's best for New York. And we tend to think that someone who, like you said, has a more intimate relationship with both Long Island and New York as a whole than the former majority leader from a different state, should hopefully, be a benefit in at least some sense. So that's good to hear your perspective. And I know. Also, I did want to discuss SALT. Obviously, that's something that we hope that will be a change that helps folks better. But also, I did know, and I wanted to see more about. I don't know if you know about it specifically, but I know the state legislature, I believe, a proposal was passed by at least the Senate, but I'm not sure about if it passed the Assembly yet. I think it was sponsored by Senator Kaplan regarding small business foreclosure eviction protection. For commercial specific tenants. Do you know anything more about that, or if that's something that's going to be on the books and take an impact to help businesses directly? Do you know?
What I've just seen is what's been reported in the paper. It's to help these commercial and So look, everyone was focused on residential. When businesses don't pay or close, so storefront closes. At some point there's a breaking point where the property owner is saying, we're giving rent assistance. People they can't go into foreclosure, but I own the building. It has to be addressed. It has to. You go down some of these. I've driven down streets where you'll have 5 or 6 vacant stores now, and that's scary to see. But then you on the flip side, say somebody owns that building, and they still have to pay their mortgage. So we have to be smart. It has to be a combination of residential, but you definitely have to bring commercial into this equation if we are going to have a sizable comeback. So these people have some finances available to look. They're going to have to modify their businesses when they come back, and these commercial owners might have to modify the interiors based on the changes that we've all seen taking place during this pandemic.
Yeah, filtration. Go ahead.
And even beyond the commercial. And the commercial landlords who were absolutely hurting as well. I had a call a few months ago. She was an 86-year-old woman from Uniondale.
Okay.
She was a landlord. Now sometimes there's the perception that landlords, they all are multimillionaires. This was an 86-year-old woman who had one unit, that was renting out. And of course, the poor tenant had lost their job, and they, of course, were subject to the rental protections, which was great, absolutely great. But on the other hand, this poor woman called me and said, what do? I need this money. This is my income, my monthly income. She was a small, one-unit landlord, not the millionaire that we kind of think of. So, so small landlords and tenants, everybody needs the help. We get it on the tenant equation side, and we know so many people are going to survive because of these rental anti-eviction protections that are in place, and that's great. But you have to think of the vast majority of landlords in New York State and beyond, but let's talk about New York State. They're small. They have 2 units or fewer. So they're not the millionaire developers that we think of. They're not the huge landlords that we think of. So, both sides of the equation have to be helped.
Yep.
Of course. Yep, that's the bottom line, definitely. And it's good to see that I know when the state, both houses, the legislatures did come back to the table, they did add specifically eviction protection for foreclosure and for small landlords, I believe, up to 10 units to be able to qualify under that hardship declaration form, again, for being part of that moratorium. So like you said, it's good to see that there have been changes and that they have taken into consideration some of maybe the groups that were forgotten in the beginning. And to see that this legislation that may be passing, again, sponsored, I believe, by Senator Kaplan, may also try to further fill the gap for commercial tenants as well. So that all said, I think maybe, again, SALT. I know something that we're still dealing with now, and I know obviously when you were in office too, that's something that still was discussed then, Kate. So maybe both of you want to tell us about what your thoughts and the prospects of seeing the changes that most Long Islanders think would be beneficial this go around in this legislative cycle.
I'll tell you, I'll give you a full circle. I remember when they took away the deduction, and I was outraged, and I was the receiver of taxes, and I held a press conference, and Kate was there, and we stood with Senator Schumer. He came to the tax office in Hempstead to stand with us, saying they should not allow this. They need to put this back. Look, we're an older region. We pay, I think, unfortunately, we have the moniker of the second in the nation for highest property taxes. It's a very important deduction for this region. Yeah. We need it. We need it back in. And I'll tell you, look, I think the president, the Congress, the Senate, they should all get unified. And this should be one of the first things they put into place. Get it back here. This had such an impact. That I remember that last week of December when it was going away, we had people lining up at the tax office at 6 o'clock in the morning for a week straight, prepaying their taxes, because it was disappearing. They should bring it back. And that's why I said to you, now that Senator Schumer's there, he's going to be an advocate for that. And that's why he's so imperative. And
now also, this might be, you always try to think of the silver linings in this pandemic. Under the rubric of, pandemic protections, they might find more support in Congress to restore that full exemption for property taxes under the guise of, hey, people have lost their jobs, or as Don said, they might be having cuts in their salaries. The pandemic is still raging. So under the guise of that, who knows? They might find some more support for reinstating that property tax deduction in its full.
Yeah, I don't see that. I personally believe that most of the citizens on Long Island or even in New York State viewed that as a punitive thing. An administration was mad at New York and did that as a message. I don't really think there should be the need for a lot of reasons to put this thing back in. It never should have been.
I think you're right, and like I said, so it
never should have disappeared in the first place.
Bingo! It shouldn't have. And like I said, look, it was nonpartisan. We all, we stood with Senator Schumer. We all agreed this is bad what they were doing. I beat up Congress for it, and it makes sense to put it back.
Yeah, and that's why we see that bipartisan support. Yep.
And for me personally, I'll hammer this administration if they drag their feet on it.
Sure. Yeah, because it wouldn't make any sense. Exactly. Like you said, not often do you see something that unifies with the same voice and passion from Lee Zeldin out at the tip of the island to Congressman Meeks, kind of on the Queens border. But, we see everyone in lockstep, knowing that this is something that we know can definitely make a positive impact in people's lives already having to deal with. Yep. Yeah, enough costs and expenditures.
I mean, I think if that stays in effect, that's going to have a lot to do with how many people move out of New York State.
It's just another very, very serious factor against staying in New York State. You're absolutely right, Bill. And, hopefully with the bipartisan support, 100% of our federal representatives here on Long Island, and with Schumer now being the majority leader, hopefully we'll see some movement on that very quickly.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. We'd like to think so. So we will stay tuned on that. We know. Yep, exactly. There's some other things in the news that we wanted to touch on real quick with you guys and the time that we have left. Let's remind folks that they are listening to this week's Long Island News here on 90.3 WHPC, and they're listening to myself and Bill McIntyre here with Hempstead Town Executive Don Clavin and Town Clerk Kate Murray. So again, thanks for joining us. And let's talk a little bit, I guess, about, we'll get into the NYFA decision and some of the other things in a second. But I know also that it looks like, Don, you went and had a press conference, I believe, with the Councilman Blakeman And the receiver of taxes, also Driscoll, regarding trying to extend the deadline for payment of first half general taxes. Can you talk a little bit more about why you think that extension would be important?
Yeah, as I said, the pandemic didn't end on January 1st. And last year, the county and extended the tax payment for the first half school bills. So people were getting until December 10th to pay their school tax bills. But it also was the first bill people were getting under the new reassessment. And look, be very straightforward. There's been a significant outcry of residents who saw jumps in their taxes and were very upset. Well, they paid those taxes on December 10th. Now, on January 1st, they're facing their first half general tax bill. And my comment, along with Janine Driscoll and Councilman Blake, was nothing's changed. Why don't we extend that payment for the first half general? Because now you're loading people with a higher school tax bill and now facing an immediate general tax bill. It really is common sense. We did it for the first bill. Why wouldn't we do it for this bill? And now people are really clamoring because they're saying, I have one person that said they saw about a $2,500 increase in their first half school tax bill. So they had to come up with $2,500 above what they were already paying, above that on December 10th. And now they're saying, Don, I just got my general tax bill. I can't pull this off, budget-wise. And Janine Driscoll had a really interesting number she gave out. During my tenure as receiver for 19 years, we saw a steady amount of late payments. It was around 2 to 3%. Okay. She said last year, I think it was, she saw a 300% increase in the amount of people paying their taxes late. That is astonishing. I've gone through the tech bubble burst. I went through the Great Recession. We never saw a change. That's why I said people are struggling. We should extend it. Look, it's not going to break the town financially to not get taxes for 30 days. That's because we're in good shape. The county's got to do the same thing. It makes sense. And again, you just did it for the first one. Why wouldn't we do it for the next bill? And I hope the county executive, and actually we reached out to the governor. I have another call into that and asked the governor to sign the extension. People need it. They want the help.
Yeah, I see why you feel that way. And I'm sure many people also share that sentiment. Like I said, it's not that you're pushing for it to be canceled. You're pushing for it to just be postponed like it was in the past, considering everything else that, people have on their plate at the moment. And I did see reported yesterday by Newsday that I guess federal, state, and state school aid is going up apparently by 1% within Long Island districts. So it's interesting to see that at least thankfully that source hasn't been cut. There were some big fears about what the budget shortfalls. I know the government talked about recently in the state, how they would impact education funding and then therefore impact the local kind of revenue funding stream of taxes to education. So like I said, hopefully, maybe things are going to be a little bit easier than we would like or than we expected to and, working hopefully better our favor. But anything that can be done, like I said, to try to just spread out the burden. I know, different utility companies, other things like that have had to push back some kind of ability to collect on things. So I understand whether the county or the state, it would be a good thing for them to at least look at.
Yeah, John, you're right on. I mean, it was funny. Kate just looked at me and she was saying to me, Kate.
Yeah, the MTA, of course, just a couple days ago announced they were not going to implement the latest increase for Long Island Railroad commuters who have such an incredibly expensive bill already. And that was very wise of them and smart because they're looking at their ridership. It's decreased a whole lot since everybody's home working. And I get that ends up, killing their revenue. But the point is, people are not going back and they could barely afford the monthly ticket at this point. So they were wise to at least defer and delay the increase until another time.
And that's what I said, you basically hit it. That's me. I'm sorry. You hit it on the head that, other entities are doing it and it's already been done here for the school taxes. So, it makes sense to extend it. And again, and I'm hopeful the governor will.
Well, the scary thing is that not to say that it doesn't need to be done. It's just in my mind, I'm thinking about, okay, we're going to put this off and we'll put that off. when we get to the end, when is the day when people are going to get evicted because they didn't pay their rent?
Yeah.
It's got to come.
Bill,
it's got to come sometime.
You are right. At some point, everything is going to come to a head, and but we should do everything we can to alleviate it, and if need be, extend it. That's what I said to you. You know what?
Yeah.
There's a way that if you phase it out over a longer period, it'll even up. But you can't have it
gotcha.
back. You gotta have compassion in this whole scenario.
Amen. Amen to that.
And I know that definitely. And I know the state is looking for. Oh, sorry. I think I'm lagging here.
No,
we can hear you, John.
You're good. Whoa. I think he just is. I think John just froze.
Yeah, and I think, as long as the state continues, the state legislature, they have the authority and the ability to continue the extensions on the evictions, on stopping evictions, and that should track very closely with the number of vaccines that are being put in arms and the number of jobs that are coming back online in New York in particular. And I think that but to continue the anti-eviction, the no eviction scenario, as long as we haven't reached herd immunity, as long as we haven't, replaced the jobs that were lost because of the pandemic, those kinds of things. I think those two items, the pandemic and the progress we're making, and the evictions, I think they should echo each other pretty closely. And I think ultimately that's the way we're going to protect our tenants. And, as they get back on their feet, I think that's. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering too, is that, the last time when we heard about the money that came from the government, there were a lot of entities that collected on that should not have.
Of course. And
I do think that the small business guy is the one that kind of gets lost in the sauce. We're certainly concerned about the customer and maybe the worker. Big companies, I don't know why they got any money, to be honest with you. Hardly paying any taxes. Why should they receive any when they don't need it? If they did need it, that'd be different. But the small businesses, some of them just disappeared off the map because they didn't get enough money fast enough. They didn't get any money.
Yeah.
My big fear is to come out from quarantine and there's nothing left. That's my.
Don't please. Everyone needs help, but they have to make sure it's even, it's fair, it's distributed. Hey, listen. You hated hearing those stories about, in the beginning where all these major corporations got all the benefits and then the people who need it the most didn't. You go, I look at, I don't know what you do. There's that guy was Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. He came up with an idea for assisting businesses, and he's raised millions of dollars. And I think the very first business he helped is right across the street from you, Borelli's.
Yep, Borelli's.
Borelli's, yeah.
That was, I think, the very first entity, and and I said, there's a guy that really, who got it, who knew it. This shouldn't be about helping Walmart. This should be about helping all the small businesses that need it. But I find it hilarious because I drove by the other day, and Borelli's, who, listen, it's a mainstay. Everybody knows Borelli's. I went there as a kid for every hockey game. They have a big thank you sign up now in front of their shop for them, But it's unfortunate that he was the guy that had to make it, that relief for these small businesses. That was supposed to be the government doing that, and they didn't get it done.
No, but he was thinking outside the box, like exactly what you were talking about before, and good for him. That's a great thing. Well, the other thing is, since we're slowly running out of time here, I'm curious, before we do run out of time, is there anything else you would like the listening audience to know that we haven't asked you?
You know what? I'll let Kate give you one. She's got a clever idea, and we're excited about it.
Well, you know what? Just to maybe end on a little bit of a happier note. Of course, we know how our first responders, our doctors, our nurses, our EMTs, our firefighters, our police officers, how they have been, and everybody in between, how they've been so tremendous during this pandemic. So in a very small token of our thanks, Don and I are going to be hosting on Friday, February 12th, fourth Valentine's Day. We're going to be offering wedding ceremonies and wedding vow renewals. We're going to make it nice for our first responders. We're going to ask them to show up in their uniforms, and it's just a small way to celebrate a romantic day, of course, but also in a small way, but a heartfelt way, to say thank you to all of our first responders. There'll be little goodies, some gifts. We'll try to make it nice for them, and if nothing else, if it's just a few minutes out of their day of helping and having very hard jobs, if it gives them a few minutes of happiness, well, we're in for that. So we're
great idea.
Oh yeah, no, we see that you've been very busy on Facebook with lots of happy couples that you've been helping tie the knot for virtually. It's good to see.
I tell Kate all the time. I said I think she's married more people online. That she'll have set a record that this is going to be the new norm for people dialing their weddings with Kate.
Yep, there you go. No more Vegas drive-through. You got the dial in.
Wait. You can still go to Vegas. You take Kate with you.
There you go. I'm sure you could all use a vacation, but So like I said, it's good to see that there are some good things out of these dark times, and we know that. Although there is politics always involved, ultimately at the end of the day, we want the best for everyone, and we want to appreciate those who clearly have done so much for us, like the frontline workers, and support them in every way we can. And we did see that you guys, I know, and we'll have to have maybe a time another day to talk a little bit more in detail about some other issues too, but we saw that you had been involved with some CARE Act grants, I believe, to North Belmore, and the Belmore, I believe, region, their fire departments, and we know how important again volunteer fire departments and EMTs are, especially out here in Long Island, and that they maybe aren't always getting the same acknowledgement that traditional FD and EMS might be from county services. But it's good to see, like you said, that people kind of think about this as a big picture. And we'll have to have you guys on both another time, because we can talk a little bit more about some other issues. We know, like I said, NIFA, which we alluded to, we'll talk about another time. And also the changes at the county's tax assessor's office. I know something you pushed for, Don, and I know, like I said, there's some changes there that impact people. And we also, I don't know how much Bill got to it there in the time that I had a tech difficulty, but talk about some of those creative state revenue raiser proposals, things that we know the county might have had some kind of mixed feelings about in the past, things like legalized gambling, things like recreational legalized marijuana, and other types of tax revenues and things like that. So we just invite you back another day, and we look forward to talking to you then about some of those other things. But
John,
thanks again.
You and Bill have been great, and we look forward to it. I do want to remind residents, please, be careful, wear the mask, follow the rules. And as more vaccinations become available, we'll get that message out there. But we've all got to work together to continue to get through this pandemic. But I do appreciate all the time you give Kate and I, and I enjoy the conversations. And Bill, again, I'm glad I came up with that great idea. Kate,
there you go. Well, I'm going to get in touch with you about that one. We'll talk about that.
The Bill Mack resolution. There we go. All for it.
We want to thank you so much. Both
Thank
of you,
you,
Kate.
guys. Take care. Be safe.
All right. Thank
you. You
Take care.
too.
Have a good weekend, guys. Be well. Reminder, follow us on social media at TWLI News.
90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time right here.
Take care, everyone.